Hey guys. So I'm going to talk to you about some monster ideas I had for today. Alright, first off is the Yandere. Yeah, Yandere. Yeah. It's a deer woman, basically, yeah. This creature is an evil seductive fairy that has a half deer and half humanoid appearance and is clad in dead leaves and spider silk. Yeah, it is a creature from the fairy realm, by the way. Yeah, it's in the fairy tale world. And it has large antlers on its head. Yeah, she often deludes and chases men with her charms, and she has a very possessive and kind of one-sided love, and that can be very dangerous since she's also prone to eating people and kind of trampling them to death, if they don't do what she really wants, or she thinks they're cheating on them. Basically, evil stalker stuff, basically. Sort of like Mr. Cameron, the one Batman series. Man, I kind of wish they didn't make Mr. Cameron that way, but that is definitely villain behavior, though. But that is definitely villain behavior. Anyway. All right, now on to the next one. All right, Mortoroid. Damn, it sounds like a roid monster from Yu-Gi-Oh. This creature looks like a robotic spider-like mite with an angry face and a beetle-like body, and has a red scare and has a rust red, kind of face on it. Yeah, and it's fused with a massive mortar cannon. That, shoots out heat-seeking missiles, which it often likes to use to breach defenses and fortifications of the enemies, and basically shoot out a swarm of missiles that chase them and blow them up. Yeah, it's part of the Webkin series of, monsters, yeah. Yeah, if you don't know, I'm kind of working on stuff for, the object world, and, I thought, hey, why not make things that are based on weapons? I also had other ideas for it, such as the neglected ones, which are basically, object spirits that are born, born of neglected or discarded, neglected, broken, and discarded objects. Since, the object world is kind of based on, those kind of yokai, yeah? Well, I shouldn't say it's based on it. It's more inspired by it, yeah. Yeah. All right, now, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, what was it again? Tsuskimogami? Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the proper term. I don't quite remember, unfortunately. So if I get it wrong, let me know, okay? Alright, here's another one, alright? The Rusalka. Yeah, you remember Order of Ecclesia, that boss that, spews out tidal waves? Well, this one's a little bit my take on, one of those creatures. Obviously, the creature itself is taken from folklore, yeah? So it probably would be like in a proposed water world, or yeah. Yeah, that would probably have something to do with Atlantis and the Little Mermaid and all that. This mist-like undead wraith, is of a drowned woman, haunts the oceans on foggy nights. Yeah, I decided to go and learn like a mist-like wraith, looking thing. Like of a drowned woman. That's like made to see mist and all that. It can cause seas to become rough and stormy in an instant, and often loves various sailors, and will also try to drown them and take their bodies and souls to trap them beneath the waves with her forever and ever. Yeah, that basically spooky evil water spirit stuff. Yeah, mermaids are just popular and sexy version of it, really. If I'm gonna be completely honest, you guys remember Lorelei from Monster Mercimania? Yeah, the old Lore of Mermaids is like really super dark about that. Anyway, all right, next one. All right, we got a werewolverine. Yeah, I decided, hey, if we're gonna have werebeasts, we can, have all sorts of werebeasts we can have. I already made a were-rabbit, Alright, you probably don't know, she's Miss Inaba. Yeah, she's a were-rabbit, and she's also a stage magician. She has the true art of stage magic. Yeah, she's from the future timeline, but, there are, of course, other werebeasts, too. Of course, werewolves are included, yeah? Werewolverine is one of the ones I came up with, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if it actually exists though, but technically speaking, there's all sorts of werebeasts, all over the world in, different lores. This monster is part man and part Wolverine and has sharp claws and a loud and aggressive and hostile personality. Wolverines are basically just, honey badgers on steroids, basically, yeah. And then often starts trouble and picks fights for fun and is a ruthless and relentless fighter. Yeah, though, no. Yeah, by the way, it's not Wolverine from the X-Men, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, alright. I will say Wolverine is cool and everything, but this is not quite him now. Yeah, by the way, a picture of Wolverine looks like two Batman kissing. Alright, now, next one. The Omelet Dragon. It's a yellow and white colored dragon that comes from a giant white colored egg, which it can fold itself up and get inside and float around inside the egg. And the egg also protects it from very powerful blows. Yeah, can you figure out what the egg is made out of? It must be a stuff that's tungsten. It also blasts out noxious, poisonous breath from its mouth because it's kind of rotten inside. Oh no, it's a rotten egg. Yeah, that's probably gonna be in the realm of food, yeah. Yeah, there is a realm of food, and yes, everything there is made of food, and the people are also food, and the creatures are food. Everything's food, really. Of course, the main villain is, Lord Broccoli. Yeah, we don't like broccoli around here. Broccoli is, like, super gross. Alright, now. We got the Red Bloxer and, the Block Knocker, yeah. Basically, they're like red and blue robots, and they kind of come from the toy dimension. You probably know what I'm trying to reference with it. It's that battle stage. The red and blue robot that your goal is to knock each other's block off. Yeah, they've been fighting for a long time to prove which one of them is truly the strongest fighter, and have basically developed a rivalry with each other. Also, they're fighting. Also, the Red Bloxer's fighting technique is kind of similar to, wait, which one was it again? Were-Tiger? Yeah, one of them's like based on Were-Tiger, and the other is like based on Were-Jaguar. Yeah, you remember those from Aria Sorrow, right? I mean, yeah, was it Aria Sorrow? Yeah, Aria Sorrow. Yeah. In that game, Were-Jaguar and Were-Tiger were both described as rivals to each other, and, had very different techniques that are basically, different types of punching techniques. So that's kind of what, their special techniques are based on, yeah. Oh, I forgot which is which. No, I forgot, which technique specifically is for Were-Tiger and Were-Jaguar, but, the straight combo technique is, done by Red Bloxer, and, the uppercut technique is done by, Block Knocker. Yeah, by the way, they're like made of plastic. They're like made of colorful plastic, pieces, yeah. They're like somehow super strong, yeah. Oh, I got another one that's, inspired by a toy. The Cabbage Doll. Yeah, this is obviously a reference to Cabbage Patch Kids, just in case you're wondering. This creature resembles a white-faced small creature that resembles a child fused with a cabbage and cauliflower plant. And then it has flat limbs with 3 fingers and toes and can roll up into a cabbage and roll around real fast. Gotta go fast, yeah. Alright, Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah. Gotta go fast, yeah. Eat chili dogs, yeah. Collect greens, yeah. Alright, I may be making fun of Sonic, but there's no denying that he's very influential in video games, okay? Not gonna lie, some Sonic games are good. Yeah, it's just that, when the ones that I grew up with, after the Genesis, they weren't very good for a while. But they definitely improved, at Frontier, but, that's a different story. Ooh, we got one that's inspired by an old school art technique. This is his silhouette guy. This guy resembles an old school mobster that was made from an old school silhouette art, and he wields a shadow Tommy gun that can fold up into a violin case. Like in the movies where the mobsters have those violin cases that contain their Tommy guns. Yeah, they're like pretending they're totally going to an orchestra. Yeah, they're just a bunch of high-class gentlemen going to an orchestra, and they're just they're totally not carrying Tommy guns around. You know, trying to shoot each other in violent gang wars. Or, you know, getting to shootouts with the police. Or, you know, the feds. Yeah, the feds would probably be the ones, you know, after them, yeah. Yeah. Alright, the Watch Minute Man. Alright, this one's another Object World monster. Yeah, just gonna tell you. Yeah, let's see, this guy has from a jewelry section in the Object World and where the rich and elite hang out, because of course they do. It has a humanoid phone that's covered in belts that resemble wristbands of watches and has a fancy watch for its head that, you know, has a whole bunch of dials on it. You know, sort of like, you know, those fancy watches with all those little dials on it, you know. It's also plated in, like, gold and silver. Yeah. Yeah, and it also like uses a rifle. It's like a Watchman, the Minuteman of the Revolution, yeah. Yeah, I like to pretend it's like a big revolutionary, but it's like, you know, very but, you know, like super rich and everything. Oh wow, we got one that, you know, I think would fit in, you know, the time-space war. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. This creature resembles a little man with an oversized cowboy hat, and it has a little six-shooter. Its hat covers its head, and it has holes to show its eyes. It's a rootin' tootin' cowboy on a quest for vengeance. You know, sort of like a lot of classic, you know, cowboy movies. Get vengeance on the outlaws, or, you know, the law that done you wrong. And the name Matt Stetson is, you know, inspired by the Mad Hatter, but, you know, definitely a more Western theme. Oh, alright, we got some more. Are you ready? Alright, here comes the Nestor doll. This creature looks like a combination of a nesting doll and a Daruma doll in a feminine form. It contains innumerable versions of itself inside of itself that have different faces and personalities for each one. Yeah, you guys ever see shit, what was that movie called again? Yeah, it was the one with Jack Frost, you know? You know, the good movie with Jack Frost, you know, and he was joining up with a Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus and all that, you know, fight against the Boogeyman. Yeah, and this creature is kind of a little inspired by, you know, a certain scene from it, yeah. Where Santa Claus was kind of describing himself. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. I kind of also think it's kind of funny that Santa Claus and then is kind of Russian. At least if I remember correctly, he was Russian. Alright, we got another one. This is the Idol Blader. It's a bronze armored warrior. It's a bronze armored female idol-like being that, you know, has 4 arms and carries 4 swords and has a mask that resembles the doji. And has beautiful dancing moves with fluid alluring movements. Basically, come on, little humans, come over here and worship me. Yeah, there'll totally be lots of pleasures over here. Yeah, I'm totally not trying to lead you away from wisdom or anything like that. Yeah. Oh wait, I'm pretty sure I'm describing the Apsara. Anyway, alright, next one. Alright, class singular one. Oh boy. Yeah, I was thinking of, you know, hey, I'm gonna make this one church world that's, you know, it's inspired by concepts of heaven and hell and, you know, the afterlife and all that. So I decided, you know, I came up with a couple ideas for that. Alright now. Or alternately, I can, you know, just have it be a minion of, you know, Father Dull, you know, and have it be in his cult base, you know, when we're doing the Monster World arc. Since, you know, that proposed dungeon is basically a church anyway. This being is a low-level celestial entity that's made up of floating glass shards that are able to break apart and reassemble themselves into many shapes, including a humanoid. It can command the glass shards as razor-sharp blades. Whoa, yeah! Obviously, it's not really limited to a humanoid form, but, you know. Yeah, its form is mostly, you know, made up of, it's mostly, you know, the sharp crystals, and, you know, it just forms itself into whatever it wants, really. Pretty geometrical, yeah. Very out of this world, you know, geometrics, yeah. Alright, next. Alright, next, Fanatic Judge. This dark winged, judge has 6 wings and yeah, it has bird wings, by the way, not bat wings. And it has like 6 of them, and it wears a scary Oni mask in it. And it is dressed in a powdered wig with a long, sinister black robe that, resembles bat wings and carries a giant bloody gaffle. It's known for being cruel than usual and exacting and demanding. Yeah, it's inspired by fanaticism. It's inspired by judgmentalness and fanaticism, yeah. It is the same thing. It is the same thing as the glass angular one. Alright, for something a little bit more peaceful, here we are. The Waferan. This creature looks like a cleric with a wafer on its head with a cross-like shape on top of its head, and it speaks in a solemn voice and is very calm and quiet. It is able to generate wafers of flatbread to, fly around on, and it can use them as throwing discs. Yeah, by the way, this thing is, inspired by Deltarune, basically. And, that's obviously, it's also, obviously inspired by communion wafers, which are very common, in Christianity, yeah. Basically, flesh of Christ, yeah. Alright, anyway, next idea, and this is the last one, I swear. Alright, white whale. Yeah, but before you say it, it's not the color white, it's not the color white per se, it's like, it's like the undead entity, yeah. The terror of the ocean that lives in the icy ocean. Yeah, the icy ocean, I'm like proposing that as like one of the areas, of the water world that, I have proposed. It's like the Arctic, it's like the, super cold Arctic Ocean area. Yeah, and also this white whale has terrible red eyes and terrible red eyes, and is an undead entity that is known for, sinking ships and eating many a fine sailor man. Oh no, what a terror. Alright, yeah, by the way, this is kind of inspired by, actually, there is a whale yokai that, basically is a skeleton of, that's basically an animated skeleton of a whale, but, obviously it's mostly inspired by, what was it again? What was it again? Alright, now, Captain Ahab's book? Where he was going out for revenge? Shit, frick, I forgot the name of that book. You think I wouldn't forget it because it's very famous, yeah. Alright, now, hold on. Alright, now, alright. Oh yeah, Moby Dick, yeah, I remember, alright, I remember now. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, it was Moby Dick, yeah. That's what I was talking about, yeah. Dang, I forgot the name. Sorry. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you had plenty of fun. Yep, that was the last one. Remember to fly like that and shine like the moon, for we are stuff dreams are made of. And strictly speaking, my world is basically made up of dreams and delusions and madness and nightmares. I mean, I myself am, a thought form, I myself am, we fairies ourselves are, born of thought forms, That's right, we were descended from tulpas. Yeah, in fact, fairies were originally, created from babies' laughter, Of course, that's not the only thing some of us were formed by. Yeah, some of us were formed by things that were a little less pleasant, unfortunately. Like how Carapace was formed by, Victorian-era Karens. Yeah, I myself, though, was, born from, more heroic aspirations, yeah. And obviously, stuff like fairy tales and magical girls are, heavily influenced, in my design, as well as video games and anime. Anyway, I'll see you later. Alright, now, I'll see you later, I'm sorry. Goodbye. Oops, sorry about that.